Good afternoon. Thanks for being here. My name is 𝗦𝗲𝗀𝗍𝗳. I work for Microsoft Tech for Social Impact. We have a very cool agenda today talking about the Microsoft Fabric in the nonprofit industry. And we have a little small fireside chat from a few panelists here who's actually doing it in the field for nonprofits. Our mission at Microsoft is empowering every person, every organization on the planet to achieve more. At Microsoft TSI, we bring the power of AI to social impact organizations everywhere. When we look at challenges that private and public sector customers at Microsoft have around data and adoption of AI, many nonprofits deal with the same challenge, while they also have their own unique challenges, from capacity increase requirements that they can't meet, from staffing challenges that they can't fill those vacancies, leading to a little bit more stress for the existing employees, and sometimes the opportunity that AI could help, plus some of the burnouts that could cause because of that. Donor retention is also a challenge because many small donors are dropping, and acquiring new donors becomes a challenge again. So you're looking at interaction with donors, sometimes not having personalized messaging with the donors, or funders and such. That becomes a huge challenge. While all of these leads to lower financial income for the nonprofits and obviously risk. So what nonprofit leaders that we work with are thinking is, how do they use AI to optimize their internal processes and at the same time look at getting better program delivery on what matters to their mission? You can see a lot of different use cases that my team have been working on with nonprofits, but these are just examples of those use cases. When we're looking at the AI adoption journey, this is one of the blueprints that we've been working with nonprofits, from skilling and awareness that starts the journey, to spotting those AI potentials, and of course, the data piece is the most important part. Assessing the data state, and then choosing the right AI tools and using it on a clean and safe data. That is one of the most important steps to the AI adoption journey when nonprofits are taking this on. And of course, when you're in the nonprofit industry or any other industry, responsible AI adoption and the proper governance is also a key to this journey. And then obviously we go to the piloting and taking on and monitoring performance of AI tools and AI models, and of course taking incremental steps. And that's where you're just creating those innovation engine over and over. So let's go back to the data state. So for the data, one of the challenges that nonprofit has had for years is organically growing. And of course, every nonprofit has multiple different program deliveries, and each of those could require their own vendor services and other data systems that sometimes they don't talk to each other. Consolidation has been a major challenge across the nonprofit industry. And of course, having inefficient infrastructure and multiple copies of data, plus the risk of data exposure, has been a major challenge for these nonprofits. This is the other problem. So when nonprofit leaders, like let's say Chief Information Officer, tries to take on consolidating and going through so many different services out there and consolidating the data sources, they end up with thousands of different vendors and solutions, and of course, they still have to work with those disparate data systems that they have today. And that's a major, major challenge. So a lot of chief information officers are complaining that they're becoming chief integration officers, and that's not who they want to be. So what Microsoft Fabric has done for our industry, for a nonprofit, is now empowering those nonprofits to manage their data in just one place and have access to a seamless analytic system that would not only help them get the data state all together and focus and fuel their mission, but also lay out the foundation for adoption of AI. So many of our organizations that have adopted Fabric, they have set themselves up for success on the AI in the short term, and even for the future AI models that are coming in or AI applications that are building on top of that. Let's watch this.
Is redesigning how we work with data by bringing all your data and analytics tools into a single experience. With Fabric's Data Lake, 𝗦𝗲𝗀𝗀, your teams can connect to data from anywhere and all work from the same copy across engines. Your data professionals have all the tools they need, all in one SaaS experience to reduce the cost and effort of integration. Features like Direct Lake Mode in Power BI, which provides a blazing fast, real-time connection to your data, can save you time and cost while providing up-to-date insights. This intelligence can then securely flow to the Microsoft 365 applications people use every day to improve decision-making and drive impact. All backed by Fabric's tight integration with Microsoft Purview to govern and protect your data, no matter where it's used. AI-powered features like Copilot help everyone be more productive, whether it's creating data flows and pipelines, writing SQL statements, or building reports. And as we enter a future built on AI, you can unify, prepare, and model your data to support truly game-changing AI projects. All your data, all your teams, all in one place. This is Microsoft Fabric.
Now, the coolest thing in Microsoft Fabric for nonprofits is integration of Copilot at every step and every component of Microsoft Fabric. So one of the challenges that ITs in nonprofits has had is they're not subject matter expert in delivery of programs and nonprofit mission. What they've done is now, with Fabric, they're cooperating and collaborating very closely with subject matter experts to come in and build the right analytics and build the right business intelligence dashboards that matters to the mission and the program, and that's how nonprofits are taking advantage of the Copilot functionality built into Fabric. From writing T-SQL queries to KQL, to do data science and data engineering, all the way to building their own dashboards. Many business owners and business program managers within nonprofit, they're building their own dashboard, and this is why, because they understand how the end results matters to them, and IT is enabling them going forward. So I'm going to go ahead and ask our panelists to come up and have a conversation around how they are using Fabric in their organization. Clark?
Made it. That's the hard part.
All right, Dr. Bryan, how's it going?
Good, Mark.
Hello. All right, one thing I just found out, Dr. Bryan Zimmerman from Operation Smile, he used to be a Navy SEAL. I just found out. So, you know, that's just definitely a cool title. And of course, thank you so much. So we start from you, Dr. Bryan. Why don't we just talk about your journey on taking Fabric? What was the problem that we were trying to solve, and how did you get there, and how did you get to Fabric?
Great. Let me start, of course, before I get to Mark's question. I'd like to just begin with gratitude. I was always told by someone much smarter than myself that when your own words fail you, borrow the words of someone before you. So in the famous words of Sir Isaac Newton said, "If I have seen farther, it is by standing on the shoulders of giants." I can think of no better way to express the appreciation that Operation Smile has for Microsoft, for TSI, for the Squadra team. We have now seen farther. We know what's possible. Our doors of opportunity have opened wide thanks to this relationship. And really, it started with what was the problem. So I run medical quality and patient safety for Operation Smile. We are a healthcare delivery organization focused on surgical intervention, primarily for cleft care. So we're in 40 countries. We have over 6,000 volunteers. That's a lot of data that comes in terms of medical quality and patient safety. A lot of that data is submitted to us via uploads, email attachments. It's hand filled in sometimes on paper because we work in some of the most austere environments around the globe where connectivity can be, and often is, an issue. One of the things that I noticed is there has to be a better way to do this. There has to be a better way to capture this data and then interpret that data rather than manual extraction, which is what my team and I did. So I have a great relationship with our head of IT, Sean, and I went to Sean and I said, what do you think? How do we fix this? So with that, Sean, please.
Yeah, so if we go back a little bit, we really got involved heavier with the TSI team related to a hackathon. They brought it to us, and unfortunately, we couldn't take advantage of that due to timing. But that opened the door for us to start talking about Fabric more, which we were not really familiar with, and it hasn't been out that long. So what we did was, a few weeks later, TSI came to us and said, hey, we want to help you build a project and help fix some of these problems. And Bryan and I look at each other and said, we got just the problem for you, right? So what we did is we needed to fix and make the collection of medical quality and safety data more efficient to pull in from our volunteers. So we had 3 major challenges. We needed to get rid of manual processes, give a shorter, more efficient way for these volunteers that are in the field, again, from 40 countries, so that adds a lot of complex challenges, to make it easier for them to input that data, and then, of course, get that data real time into a dashboard for the medical quality team, so it's more actionable.
Perfect. Now, can you talk a little bit about the outcomes, some of the things that you've already achieved with this state already?
Absolutely. So we have decreased the errors and translation errors in reporting for data ingestion by over 90%. We've decreased the report generation time by over 75%. And what is the best part of all is we got this done in under 2 months from start to finish.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Yes. So you also had a little bit of demo on what is in production today. You have, I'm just going to, do you want to quickly talk about this?
Yeah. So we decided, what could we do with AI to make it a little bit better and a little bit easier for our volunteers? So a couple different ways. Our tool that we built actually uses AI to help the volunteer fill out the forms. It gives suggestions as they go through it to make it easier for them. And this is another example. What happens when we start getting data? So we, in real natural language, asked Copilot, can you create a map based on patient activities by country? And we spelled based wrong just to see if it would throw an error. And sure enough, it understood it. It thinks for a second, and it'll map it out right for us.
So basically, any subject matter expert at Operations Law can ask that question and generate the dashboard that they're looking for, right?
Absolutely, and just like you said, this democratizes the access to that data, so you don't have to be a data scientist or a tech guru to interact with it. So we can bring that closer to our teams on the ground.
Perfect, perfect. All right, let's go back to Clark. R-Care, why don't we just talk a little bit about R-Care?
Sure. First and foremost, I'd like to thank Microsoft and Mark for this opportunity to present this and spotlight R-Care in this situation, and also the leadership at R-Care. Very much appreciative for their support to allow me to come here and demo this for you and share our experience. We are based out of Augusta, Arkansas. We're a rural-based healthcare system we have clinics across Arkansas, Mississippi, and Kentucky. Doing so, our motto is health for all, and regardless of your ability to pay, we can see you in our clinic and you would not receive a bill from us. So we serve a large population in Arkansas, Mississippi, and in Kentucky that in normal healthcare that a lot of us know that has regular insurance plans would not be seen in the typical way. So we have requirements across all these states that are different. We have insurance requirements, we have program requirements, we have regulatory requirements, and all these reports have to go out in specified ways for each person, each organization to receive. We have our IT data structure team, we have our IT analytic team, and our analytic team has been pulling all this data for years. And when I say pull it, I mean it's CSVs, TXTs, possibly PDFs, trying to get APIs to do what we need to do, working with medical record systems and insurance providers and state regulation. And with all that, there's not a standard that we've met until we ran into Fabric. We have our one trial. We actually did a mock trial, and within 2 weeks, we had our API pulling in data. We had it feeding a Power BI KPI dashboard for 3 different departments, and we knew right away that was where we needed to be. So we took that to a live situation. We have patients that come in. We're very heavily a walk-in facility. So across all 3 states, we have walk-ins every day at every one of our clinics. And we were only capturing about 5% of those walk-in visits for the patients that need their care gaps closed, that need these forms completed with a partner that we partner with. And we were only able to provide the day before schedule. So as patients walked in, the folks never knew that were working the forms that these patients were even in the clinic. With Microsoft Fabric, very quickly, very easily, we were able to tie in through our API into our EHR system and generate every 2 hours a schedule that goes out to this other system that feeds the people in the clinic so they can address this with our patients. And we went from a 5% completion rate to an average of about a 60% walk-in completion rate. That is huge for our organization. That is huge for our patients to get this addressed when they're there. So I know as we go forward, if that's okay to talk about
of course,
this
yes.
as we're on this slide, as we go forward, we're up to about 15 to 20 standard reports that are worked on every day. And this has taken 6 to 8 hours, man hours per day. It's in the process right now to move those into Microsoft Fabric, where we will pull those out of the EHR. We may pull those out of a pharmacy system. All these different hooks that we have into these systems now through Fabric will automatically generate to an SFTP server, to ours or their SFTP server. We can generate that through an email, a secure email that would be sent out, and we'll save roughly, if you extrapolate that out 6 to 8 hours, just say 8 hours a day, we will save 2,080 hours of labor over the next year once this is implemented. So that's without us even scratching the surface of the AI piece yet. So that's our next step.
And talking to our chief architect, Hugo, sitting right there, it looks like now that if you want to expand the system, and EHR stands for electronic health records, right? So if there are more EHR systems out there, you can still integrate all of them into Fabric and overlay the data on top, right?
That's one of the biggest benefits that we've seen is that we're not limited to. We looked at other platforms, and in order to get a feed, we'd have to go purchase this feed, go back through the purchase process to purchase this feed. With Microsoft Fabric, we go find the connector, we get it stood up. It could be the pharmacy system, the EHR system. It could be a disparate system out there somewhere that folks say we can't get that, but they can send us a CSV file on the daily. We can intake that, and immediately it's processed into our data warehouse. We send it out to a workspace for different people to get their hands on, and it's really been an amazing thing for our organization. So we can't say enough about how much we like Fabric.
That's fantastic. Great. All right, Sean, back to you. So through this process, what did you learn, and what would you do differently?
Yeah. Echoing what Bryan said, it's always the team effort. The TSI team who exposed us to Fabric and helped us through the process, as well as 𝗦𝗲𝘀, which is a partner. That's been fantastic, and that's really what's opened our eyes to what it can do. As far as what we learned is that, like Clark said, like you said, it really made it much easier than you might think to start building these tools, and it's really cost effective. And believe me, I was very skeptical at the beginning, right? It's only been in general availability for a year. There's some hesitation there, but it's been phenomenal. What I learned is when we started this project with digitizing medical quality's data, it felt like a monumental task, and it actually really wasn't with Fabric and the TSI team. I actually wish we went broader with it and bigger with our request, to be quite honest.
Perfect. So Dr. Bryan, I'm always impressed because what you guys do is you're putting more smiles on kids, right? So that's fantastic. So on the process side, from getting other stakeholders within the organization engaged, can you talk about like how did you get this done in partnership with IT and the rest of Operations Smile?
Yes, absolutely. So as I stated earlier, we do have about 6,000 medical professionals volunteer with us. That's a key ingredient into ensuring that, let's just say, the recipe is correct, right? I mean, no one goes to a very nice upscale steakhouse and orders a medium steak or a medium rare and then expects it to come out well done, right? So I had to make sure that I talked to our medical professionals, our nurses, our plastic surgeons, anesthesiologists, and we have a ton of program and operations staff members that really make the day-to-day functionality of that program, from patient recruitment to the screening process to the transportation to get the volunteers to the hospital, locking on the hospital, doing a fact find to ensure it's the right hospital for what we need. We had to engage all these various stakeholders at different levels to understand what were their unique needs and their desires for the data. And only through that, and in cooperation with what we did with Microsoft Fabric, were we able to actually achieve everyone's ideal steak dinner.
Beautiful. Well done. So Sean, how does this Fabric infrastructure that you have in place in production is going to set you up for your AI adoption journey and the next steps? You guys are using a little bit of AI today, but like, where do you see like this is going to set you up for success?
Yeah, so like I said, we're using AI to help those volunteers fill out forms quicker so they can get back to providing care for our patients. As we add in more data from medical quality, our PHR, which is patient health record, and our activity plans, which is where we're going and how we're going to do it, we can use AI, feed that into Fabric, and start making other connections and making it easier for Bryan's team to analyze that data and find better ways to train and provide better quality for those patients out in the field. And then second, it fixes that cold start problem. My example earlier, from zero, we just asked it to start dashboarding something, and then we can actually start to build from there. It's not that blank cursor on the screen, and you got to write that, that novel, right? You start from something, and then you move out from there.
Perfect. So Clark, how about you? Like, what was your learning through the process? And what would you do differently?
So we did start a data governance team, which has been very, very good for how we have the intake of requests. One thing that we did not plan for, and I would say this is a credit to how good this has gone, but at the same time, the data governance team, we have our hands full with requests for different types of data. Can you connect this system? Can you move this into a dashboard? When can we get in line for this report to be made? So I would say if we were to do this again, we would have had the data governance team much more focused on our current state of data versus one or two different processes. Look at the whole picture and then prioritize what we need. Because right now we are prioritizing and we're also getting lots of requests as it comes in. So kind of double-edged sword there is good thing that we have Fabric to do this. Second thing on the other side of the coin is, man, we wish we were ready to take all these requests because it's become very popular within our care.
So like obviously you guys dealing with governed data and data that obviously the HIPAA and high trust and like subject to all of that. Operation Smile working with multiple different countries. Like on the governance piece, have you looked at using purview and governance for Fabric?
We actually have, and that's in process right now as well. And one thing around the security that we looked at that is so good is that before we would send out a spreadsheet of whatever format it may be, and you just trust that it's going out and being handled the way that it's supposed to be handled. We have workspaces that are designed for specific teams, and this is something that I did not see in any other product that we looked at, is you can clearly define who is the administrator of that workspace and who else can be added in to use that. So as we look at using AI, the generative AI and within Fabric going forward, we will have all different sections of our organization with their workspaces where they can go in with their allowed access, but with controlled data that's sitting out there, not just this big, broad export of data for them to go and try to sift through. So it gives us a lot more security and a lot more control over this data.
Oh, that's fantastic. So how is this infrastructure do you have in place is going to set you up for success in the next things that's coming up?
So we have, I mean, we're setting very well for growth. 𝗦𝗲𝗀𝗀𝗃 is a very, very fast growing organization. We have a huge amount of programs that we participate in. And the manual process that's in place right now, just a small piece I shared with the metrics that we have over the standard reports that are coming in, the fact that the improvement with Fabric will be using that generative AI to sift through that data on the different business unit sections versus waiting right now for a data analytics team to get that structured, get that created, and then bounce it out and say, hey, what do you think? You can give them that information on the front end. They can type in, just like what Sean's demo showed, in the data side, what they'd like to see, and it will query that, show it in even a graph for these business units without having to have an IT or data analytic-based resource to help them get that. So
Perfect.
that's huge.
It is absolutely. So Sean, what's on your roadmap? What are you guys thinking about, like your partnership with Dr. Bryan and the rest of the organization? What do you got on the roadmap?
Yeah, similar to your slide with the numerous disparate systems, we have the same problem, and then you times that by 40 countries, and don't even get me started on regulation and compliance. So it can be a nightmare. But what is amazing, and I want to take a second to talk about what Clark just said, we weren't ready for the request either, but I think it's a blessing in disguise, like you said, a double-edged sword, because if you can get people excited about it, that's my hardest job sometimes with tech, right? Get them involved, excited, and ready to use it, and I want them begging for more. I mean, it's hard to achieve and hard to do in a timely manner, but we absolutely want that. So the future state for Operation Smile is we start integrating some of these other pieces. Maybe it's Salesforce data, some financial data, logistics data, and we can start to correlate that and also see problems where we're not having unique IDs properly set up to actually coordinate this data across with each other. So all of that together, and then similarly with workspaces for the executive teams, and then all 40 countries as well through Power Apps to minimize their access. So again, they're only seeing what they need to see at the country level or at that department level.
That's great.
I'd like to add,
Please, yes.
As popular as IT guys are, we're not used to this much popularity with Microsoft Fabric. It has put IT and data in discussions in rooms that typically it would just be a piece of paper on the desk that people would look at, and now it's like hey, here comes Fabric. We can just enter the conversation with, hey, we're going to send that over to Microsoft Fabric, and all of a sudden, rock star status has been achieved. So for any of you IT folks that are out there that are looking for that, Fabric will give you that pretty quick.
There you go, gold star.
Yeah.
There we go. All right, so Clark, obviously Dr. Bryan and Sean are a pair. Dr. Bryan is basically subject matter experts on the business side, the program delivery side, Sean's IT side, right? And it shows how the two personas can work closely together, right? Obviously, you have counterparts too, right?
Yes.
So how would you describe that dynamics and after you started working with Fabric and what was the lesson learned there?
Sure. So on our data governance team, we actually have finance, we have leadership, we have our data analytics team, and we have a pharmacy representative. So all of those different units are in there with our IT team, and when we bounce through our roadmap and go through our plan, the input that they provide is pretty much invaluable, because from an IT perspective, we understand the need for the data to get out there, but we don't always understand what those numbers mean. So when you've got the business unit heads or you've got our leadership saying we need this dashboard with this to be here, and they talk to our data analytic team right there on the spot, and then the data analytic team pulls something out and says, here's all the columns or all the different types of queries we need to make. My team can go in, make that connection, pull that in, feed that to, it just kind of runs down the road real smooth with how that goes. So we can't do that, just IT. The business unit by itself just can't do that. We do work as a team, and it has to flow very fluidly through that. And Fabric allows that to happen. We have not had that as smooth in the past as Fabric has allowed us to have now.
Perfect, perfect. So one question for you gentlemen here, responsible AI, right? So ethics and privacy and all of that. What was your thought process when you started using AI? Like, let's say one of the things that I know you guys use is analyzing the pictures of kids before pre-surgery and after surgery, pre-op and post-op, right? So what did you do? What was like, obviously everyone's scared and it's like, okay, how's AI gonna, do harm or not? Can you talk about that a little bit?
Sure. So honestly, with our team, we work across a vast network. Really, I would like to highlight the fact that Operation 𝗦𝗲𝗀 truly believes in utter and utmost collaboration. So that project that you're speaking of lies with our patient data team, and they put a lot of time and effort into ensuring that we're respecting the dignity and the ethics of each and every patient that we touch, because it's not just the patient, it's the family, it's the caregiver, it's that nurse, it's everyone. So everyone has to understand that we approach each and every patient with the utmost respect. And when we do utilize photographs, it's really to train our surgical teams to ensure that we're delivering the best possible outcome for each and every child that hits that table. We have a motto at Operation 𝗦𝗲𝗀, and that motto is simply that the same care that you would expect for your child, that's the care that we'll deliver anywhere in any environment around the world, whether we're working from a makeshift surgical table that maybe doesn't function as well as it used to, or maybe we don't have the same level of running water. But that child on that table is going to receive the exact same level of care that you would expect for your own child. And that's our promise.
That's fantastic. And Clark, obviously you guys are also like dabbling into that space. You said the governance piece. Would the government team and committee that you put together would be overseeing the responsible AI adoption and going through all the workshop and collaterals?
Yes, and as everybody in here probably already knows, AI is popping up in every piece of software, every piece of tool that we use, and that's kind of, hey, we've added AI. Here's what you've got. What we like is that we do have a relationship with Microsoft, and it's a trusted environment that we work in. And what has also helped push this forward is that the AI piece that will be used will be the Copilot that we have for our Copilot Pro licenses, also the Copilot within Fabric, and it all resides within our secure Microsoft tenant, versus the question, I wouldn't say questionable maybe, but the unknown, so to speak, of different types of AI engines that with healthcare data, we just can't risk going out there and just trying it. We have to have something that's tried and true and trusted, which Fabric has that built in.
And of course, that's the transparency part of it, and making sure that you have transparency, understanding what AI does and how it got to where you got, right? So maybe each of you, if you have one advice for the audience and also our nonprofit leaders that are watching the recording of this session, what would you say to them?
I guess for me, I would lean on an African proverb that I've heard, and that's, if you want to go fast, go alone, but if you want to go far, go together. If you're on the fence, anybody in the audience or virtually, or if you're listening to this as a recording and you're on the fence about whether or not Fabric or AI or Microsoft solutions is for you, I highly encourage you to dig deeper, be bold, be courageous, make a difference, and don't hesitate. I think hesitation ultimately leads to delays and failures, really. So take that first step. The bravest people in the world are the first ones that take the first step. Think of Neil Armstrong and that first step on the moon. I don't think he hesitated for 1 second. I encourage you to not hesitate and move forward. Microsoft is the absolute solution, and I encourage everyone to discover it.
Thank you. Sean?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Echoing what Bryan said, one of the themes that I've noticed at Ignite this year is start with small wins. You know, you can't boil the ocean all at once, right? I've heard that said by a bunch of people over the last 2 days. So pick a small problem, build it, finish it, and then keep adding on, right? So that way you can get wins, everyone's excited, it's not this long, arduous process. And like Clark said, people are getting excited. Our co-founder last week heard us talk about our exact project, and she came up to me at the end and she goes, Sean, you made IT not boring, right? And again, for what Clark said, that's amazing for us because now everybody wants to talk about it and we can actually get more done. And I can't let go by without doing a quote as well. So on top of what Bryan said, I don't know who the quote's from, but it said something to the effect of, we tend to vastly overestimate what we can do in a year, but underestimate what we can do in 3 years. So start and take small steps and get those quick wins.
Thank you.
Very good, very good.
What would you say, Clark?
And I don't have a quote, just so you know. But one thing that I think that if we all are honest with where we work in IT and where we are with our businesses, is that data is what's driving the business. It really is. Mm-hmm. And if we don't actually use something to get our hands on that, IT is more than working on a workstation or resetting a password. I truly believe the future of IT is managing all this data that we have. And in the healthcare industry, there's more data than we even can imagine. So I would say look at your organization. If you don't have a data governance team that spans outside of just a couple IT staff, pull in other business unit leads and begin to discuss what does your data look like and what would you use and how could you leverage Microsoft Fabric for that.
That's fantastic. Now, as you all know, you heard from these gentlemen, that's why I have the coolest job in the whole Microsoft. And my colleagues at Microsoft, we all have in Microsoft Tech for Social Impact, the best and the coolest job ever. Getting to work with these folks, making impact across the board. So we're going to go ahead and open it up to some questions, for a few minutes. If anyone wants to ask questions for their panel, please. There's a microphone there, so if you wouldn't mind, just walk to it so our viewers online can hear that. Thank you.
Hi. Just a question around how novel technology projects affect your funding planning, and do you have to approach it differently if you're going into a new area like AI to get the visibility to get approval for these projects, or if there were some approaches you used to get those quick wins without waiting for a long approval process in your funding?
Watch it. Who wants to take it?
I'm going to pass it to you.
What we've done is, if we went on a big AI project, like truly big, we would have to budget for it and get that approval. But what we've done is, again, with those small wins I was mentioning, it allows us to jump into Copilot with a few licenses, test it, and actually show the use case. Because what I find for our teams are while the money's important and we have to be very careful with our donor dollars, if the tool works and pulls back and puts out the data that we need, then it's an easy win, it's an easy sell. But we have to prove and show the use case for it. So that's what we're working into a little bit.
Thank you.
When we're looking at these stats that Operation Smile created in such a short time, I think every board would approve additional funding. Any other questions? Anyone else has? I think there's one question, yeah.
He's getting his steps in.
Yes.
It's actually is a question from the audience that are watching.
So online. Thank you.
Online, yes. So, question from Stephen E.A. from Chicago. He's asking for all of you how to compare basically the job that was done, you can do this internally versus rely to Microsoft and partners. So how much of this job you can do only internally, basically?
I think like we have two different answers in here. Maybe we start with Clark.
So we actually took this on 100% internally. We did have a couple Microsoft resources that we would reach out and ask some questions. But based on the resources that we have internally, we did not have to spend a lot of money on any outside help. We didn't utilize a lot of partners per se, because it was very understandable and really, to our surprise, it was very easy to get our proof of concept out in a couple weeks, which we were expecting 2-3 months. So that really ramped up the excitement, really ramped up what we could do with it. So if you've got the staff, we do have a data engineer on staff, and we do have a data analytic team. That allowed us to do that internally as well. So I would say if you want to do it with minimal resources such as what we have, it's possible.
Sean?
And ours was the exact opposite of that. We had some engineers from Microsoft or TSI, and then we also had a partner, 𝗦𝗲𝘀𝗀, that helped us build the tool that we were referencing earlier. But what that did show us is most of that work in our tool was actually consolidating forms, data, and actually building out the tool. I feel pretty confident now, after having seen that, we could do what Clark just said. We can jump in and start connecting things, and actually we already have started to the future state that you saw earlier doing that, and I believe we can do most of that in-house. The approach that we try to take on my team is we don't want to go out to partners for everything. It's extremely expensive, and we have to be careful with that. So with tools like Fabric, we can do the lower 70, maybe 80%, and only reach out for something that's complex that we don't have the skill sets in-house for, and that makes that more of a valuable asset.
Fantastic. I think just like, also timeline, like how fast you wanted to go, and some of the skill sets that the partner provided, that was, like, I think there's a little bit of differentiating factor. But I'm glad that that knowledge transfer helped now that you feel comfortable that taking it to the next level. Perfect. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it. You guys definitely make our jobs the coolest job at Microsoft, and everything we do together. So thanks for being here, and thanks for the audience. Thank you so much.